What have you seen so far?
We, just traffic and parking,
That's it.
parking.
That's about it. You can leave now. Yep.
And we're gonna go after. This is our first stop.
Oh.
We actually drove through Williamsburg.
Uh-huh.
We came from New Jersey, but we kind of went to exit 30 and we drove through Williamsburg. I wanted them to kind of see the contrast between a Hasidic community in Williamsburg and Crown Heights, for example.
And the difference is?
Well, all we saw so far is the difference in the dress.
Yeah.
That's pretty apparent.
We didn't meet him.
We didn't really, we didn't even get out of the car there. We just
Yeah.
kind of just drove through.
I was talking to a professional tour guide, organizer, leader, something, whatever. He brought a group. And I said, anything different about the visit here? You know, I don't know how many tours he's done, all over, not just. He says there's never been a more welcoming community.
That we noticed too, because I had double parked and a car wasn't able to get by, and the woman, Lubavitcher, rolled down her window and she said, "Excuse me, I think we need to move out a little." And they were like, "Wow, she's so nice, so nice." She didn't like start yelling.
Curse.
So
Road rage.
Which she would have had every right.
That's nice to hear because sometimes they do get pretty.
Get upset. Right.
But in general, the community is very welcoming because it's almost why we exist. So it's not like, yeah, you want to come. No, we want you to come because the whole mentality here is we're here to serve. That's how we're raised. That's how we're trained. It's what. There are no private citizens here. We're all so, just in the few minutes that we have, it's rather obvious, and there's a lot of focus and attention paid to the fact that we are dependent on God. Something happens, is God forbid and God willing, and we know in moments of sobriety, we know that we're fragile, we're tiny, and without some help from above, so we have guilt complexes, and we have religious complexes, religious fanaticism, desperation, but all of it comes from the realization that we are dependent. We're at His mercy. And sometimes we think that's great, and sometimes we hate it. The part that's missing is that we didn't create the world, and we didn't create ourselves. God did. Which, I mean, the first conclusion you draw from that is that He needs it more than we do. This was not our plan. This was not our creation. It's His plan. It's His creation. So, who's doing whom a favor? Who's doing whom a favor here, right? We forget that this is a two-way street. And the focus on how much we depend on Him can be really out of place. Yes, we depend on Him. Of course we depend on Him. He created us. But He created. Why? So the creation gets a little too much attention. The Creator gets none. There's something not right about that. It just doesn't add up. It's not logical. So instead of thinking of Him like an ATM, the go-to person when you're in trouble, that's a very negative picture of life and of reality. So the focus really should be, what does He need? We'll manage one way or the other. We'll get by. For better or for worse, But he's here forever. What does he need? And how do we know he needs? He created the world. What better indication? You create a whole universe, you obviously need something. Unless you're totally frivolous. So that's why every mitzvah we can do, every one of his wishes or commandments or whatever you want to call them, that's awesome. So Judaism, unlike religion, Judaism is the opportunity to do something for him. So I was talking about this recently. Every religion has a destination. You know, nobody picks a religion on philosophy. You pick a religion based on destination. Why are Christians Christian? Because it brings salvation, saves you from going to hell. Otherwise, you know, every philosophy eventually ends up sounding the same as every other philosophy. So it's the destination, you know, the bottom line. Why are Muslims Muslim? Because they'll get their reward in heaven. Why are Buddhists Buddhists? Because they'll be enlightened and they'll be in nirvana, whatever it is. So ask any religious person, what's your agenda? What do you want? And he'll tell you. Which makes sense. But ask an observant Jew, why are you doing this? He has no idea. What's in store for you? We don't know. We don't really care. Yeah, we have a concept of going to heaven, you go to Gan Eden. Nobody's excited. Because if you're really Jewish, you don't want to go anywhere. What's wrong with staying here? There is no better place, like the Christians say. He's in a better place now. Not a better place. It's a nice place. It's not better than being alive. Nothing's better than being alive. Why? Because when you're alive, you can do something for the Creator. When you die, the Creator has to take care of you. We would rather serve than be served. We don't believe in retiring. We want to do something. We want to be of service. We want to be needed. And we are. So what is the destination of Judaism, if you want to compare it to religions? Because Judaism itself is not a religion. The destination of Judaism is, what can I do for you? Everybody else wants something from God. I mean, we also want, but that's not what Judaism is about. Judaism is, what can I do for you? What do you need? You created the world. You started this mess. What do you need? There was this cartoon about Trump at the in Jerusalem when he went to the wall. So the cartoon is he's standing there. You know what I'm talking about? He's standing there. He says, "God, what can I do for you? What do you need? What can I do for you?" That's Jewish. That's Jewish. Everybody else runs to the wall and they put their little notes in there that, give me this, give me that, I need. That's not really, I mean, that's human. But Jewish is, anything I can do for you? You created it. Must be something you need. Created me, must be something you need from me. And when I feel like I can do something for you, the rest becomes easier to handle. What I need from him, not so important anymore. Because I can do something for him. And I think that's the underlying, maybe unspoken attitude of the community here. We all have needs. It's not easy living here. It's cramped, it's small, it's New York. You know, it's not easy. So we all have needs, but if we can do something for someone else, that is so much more enjoyable. And so you handle your needs as long as you can do something for someone else. As long as you can serve That's better than being served. Although a little service at the local restaurants wouldn't hurt. Right. That's not bad, not bad. But I remember walking in and saying, can I have this was years ago when things were much better. Can I have a malted and the waitress looks at me like, a malted. That's what a malted. Chocolate or vanilla? I said, okay. So a little service wouldn't hurt. But I think you'll notice people are so anxious to be of service when they're in a good mood. When their own needs don't get them down and depressed. That is the biggest pleasure. So psychologically, and I think the world of psychology has got to learn this very quickly, because everything is love. Pop psychology. Kid has a problem, love him more. You love him more and he still has a problem, love him more. They're missing the boat. We don't need to be loved as much as we need to be needed. We need to feel like we're significant, that we make a huge difference. Because if I don't make a difference, all the love in the world is not going to help. If I'm not necessary, it's like whipped cream without the cake. So if I'm necessary, if my life is valid, if I'm here for a reason, and you love me, oh, that's nice. But if I'm not here for a reason, what's love? So that's what's going to happen, I think. That psychology has got to shift their focus. When a child feels unneeded, no amount of love is going to help. And it's not helping. It's not helping. All these kids who have serious problems, they're loved. They just don't think they're necessary. Which leaves you feeling totally empty. And love doesn't fill that. Love doesn't replace being needed. And theologically, if you want to, why do we need to be needed? Because we were created out of a need. God needed us, so he created us. So being needed is in our DNA. And that's why when you feel needed, you can survive everything. I mean, Viktor Frankl says, his observation of people in the concentration camps, those who felt needed by somebody, by anybody, survived. And those who felt unneeded, well, he's saying they wouldn't have survived even if there was no Holocaust. If you don't feel needed, you just don't survive. You become suicidal.
I'm just, in a few minutes we're about to go to the Rebbe's room.
Oh.
His office, maybe just the...
So without changing subject, the Rebbe's enthusiasm for life and for every person he met. That's, the Rebbe would stand and give out dollars. You've heard of this? Like for 6 hours in his 80s, into his 90s, and he would stand there for 6 hours giving out dollars and greeting everybody. This is really draining. Beside the standing part, just greeting people is really draining. So somebody said, how do you do this? Where do you get how come you're not tired? And the Rebbe said, famously, you never get tired counting diamonds, which is a cute way of saying something really profound. Every person that came by, the Rebbe felt the need, the necessity. This person is necessary. Well, that changes everything. If you're just being nice and polite, after a half hour you're drained. I mean, how polite can you be already? enough already with the nice, it's draining. But if every person that comes is significant, you get energy. It's not a drain. It's an inspiration. That feeling that every person is a significant, necessary part of creation, that's an awesome, and that's what people felt when they spent a minute with the Rebbe. They felt validated, not loved. They felt like they were real, that they were important, that they were necessary. Then they went to look for love. But first you got to feel real. So when the Rebbe just looked at them like, who are you? It was like, you're important too. Without you, the world would not be what it is. I mean, the scientists say without a single molecule, the world would change. The whole universe would be different. Certainly without an individual, without a fellow Jew, Jewish people wouldn't be the same, the world wouldn't be the same. So everyone is necessary, important, and indispensable. Now you got to decide whether you like them or not. But that's negotiable. You don't like me today, maybe you'll like me tomorrow. But I'm valid. I'm necessary. I'm here for a reason. That's the feeling I think you'll get in the Rebbe's room. The aura hasn't gone away. Because everyone who ever spent time in the Rebbe's room came out feeling real. Their problems didn't change. But all of a sudden it wasn't so important. They felt real. And if you're real, you can handle whatever you need to handle. So it's the Rebbe's room is a place where your existence is validated. Because it's true. It's not just a poetic sentiment. It's true. You are an indispensable part of creation, which means literally that 6,000 years ago when God decided to create the world, he considered what he was creating and you were part of that picture. It's a pretty awesome thought. So you're already about 6,000 years old. You've existed that long. First in thought, then in reality. That's why we're so committed to outreach. Because you're talking about people who are indispensable. You gotta tell them what they're here for. So it's not really so much a favor as it is an obligation. It's not beyond the call of duty. It is the call of duty. So these boys stopping people in the street saying, you're Jewish, you want to put on tefillin? What is that all about? It's not two questions. It's, oh, you're Jewish? Well, then you got to have your tefillin. In other words, first, the significance of being a Jew. If you don't get that, then what's the mitzvah for? What are the tefillin going to do for you if you don't appreciate being a Jew? So the first thing is, do you know how important you are? And if you do, here's your tefillin. You know how necessary you are? If you do, well, here's the role you're meant to play. So first you validate, then you act on it. That's what it's all about. And ideally, at least, and that's what this community is all about. When we're in a good mood.
Any questions before we hit the road?
This might be too big a question for this little group, but do you think there ever will be somebody that will take the same position that the Rebbe held?
I would love to think so, but it's not easy. Somebody said, how come you haven't had a new Rebbe yet? And the guy said to him, well, we're looking and we're considering you. So the guy said, that's ridiculous. I said, see, that's our problem. Anybody we suggest is like, come on, that's ridiculous. These are huge shoes to fill.
Literally impossible. So the answer basically, it's not looking likely.
Right? But if it could happen, wow. Wow.
Believe it, I can't conceive of how that decision would be made. Like, who gets to decide? All of the
Consensus.
committee?
Consensus. And it's always the way it's been. It's always a consensus. That's how the Rebbe became Rebbe. A lot of people signed a petition asking him to become Rebbe, and he fought it. Oh yeah.
For a year, between the passing of the previous Rebbe till the Rebbe became Rebbe, there was a full year where there was no Rebbe. The Rebbe didn't want to fill the position. People were asking and asking. It was exactly 1 year later that the Rebbe accepted.
It was a campaign. We got Chassidim from Israel to write, requesting from France, from.
So it's not like something is happening anytime soon.
Well, there's no candidate. Let's put it. If there was a candidate, we'd be busy, but there's no. Also, to be really, really honest, the Rebbe's project that he had us all drafted and signed up for, we haven't really finished yet. So in some sense, if there was a new Rebbe and he started a new project, we'd be in trouble. Because we're in the middle of a project here. So it's not like we don't know what to do. But if there could be another Rebbe, wow.
Can I ask, what is your project?
Outreach.
Okay.
Makes
so
the
what
world a
do you-
better place.
Okay.
Yeah.
Reach every Jew. Has that been done? Not even close, so it's.
Yeah, we got a ways to go. But it is definitely happening. We were looking, remember we were driving someplace to a Chabad house somewhere in Long Island, and we weren't finding, so we stop at a red light and this car pulls up next to us, we roll down the window and say, where is, 268 Ramsey Road? They didn't know. So they said, what are you looking for? We said the Chabad house. Oh, Chabad, yeah, just make a, that was very nice. So we're getting somewhere, right? At least in some states, the word Chabad is as familiar as Starbucks.
This group is from Medford, New Jersey, but your daughter's a shliach. And which else in New Jersey?
Freehold.
Freehold.
How far is that from Medford?
Far.
Far, that's okay.
Yeah,
So
it's
it's
like
like
an
an
hour
hour
and
and
a
a
half.
half.
Yeah,
It's
we
by
once
Deal,
went up there.
where we were talking about.
Oh, yeah,
all
is it?
the time.
Okay, Mom, okay.
Now,
Right.
what's a shliach?
Shliach.
Right here.
The
What is
okay, go
What
ahead.
is a shliach? I've never heard that.
Shliach is somebody who is willing to go wherever they're needed to serve the community that they're in.
So my
Usually
husband
it's a couple.
is considered a shliach.
Okay.
There's a shliach in Cherry Hill, a shliach in Kathmandu, wherever. That's called, the title of that is a shliach.
Which means an emissary. It means an emissary.
Translates as emissary.
Well, does the rabbi know what Medford was 100 years ago?
Not even 100.
Yeah,
Not even
probably
100.
50.
I don't even know what it is today.
Yeah.
There wasn't a
Changing.
Jew in Medford, okay? It was all Goyim, Medford and Haddonfield.
How about the son?
And they wouldn't sell their house to a Jew. So the Jews in South Jersey built Cherry Hill. Cherry Hill has what, 5 synagogues, 6 synagogues?
Oh, they overdid it.
Apparently not. There's still room.
And the Jews that didn't really want to be part of that kind of Jewish community eventually moved to Medford and Haddonfield and all these towns that have plenty of Jews now. Not plenty,
But
but
they were
but
absolutely
years.
not permitted to live.
No, they would not sell to a Jew.
And now the Chabad is on Main Street.
There goes the neighborhood.
We even had a Jewish mayor in Medford for a town.
What?
Yeah.
be the Jewish mayor.
So where exactly is Medford?
Right near Cherry Hill. Which is
Where
outside-
exactly?
It's outside of
It's
Philadelphia.
a bedroom
Near
community of
Philadelphia.
Philly, so
Oh.
it's South
Exit four
Jersey.
on New Jersey Turnpike.
Exit 4.
There's actually a woman who started to come to our shul sometimes who considers herself that she's become more religious just listening to her classes online. Her name is Phyllis.
Diller.
Phyllis,
You know who I'm talking about?
Phyllis from class.
No,
Monday
no,
class?
not Phyllis Hooper. No, a different Phyllis. She's come a few times. She has a disabled son, a disabled older son.
Oh, yes, I know her. Yeah, I don't know
I
her
don't
last
remember her
name.
last name, but she's put mezuzahs on and she's because
Done a
she
lot.
listens to your classes. So regards. She didn't know we would be meeting you today, or else I guess she would have been with us.